Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your sources, all the articles, studies, notes, and, well, we pull out the essential stuff you need to know.
Yeah.
We talk so much about noise pollution, about information overload, but today, we're flipping that completely. We're diving into the biological effects of the other extreme, absolute silence.
And it's funny, when we think of true silence, our minds go to peace, meditation, maybe a kind of mental vacation.
Right, something to seek out.
Exactly. But the sources we've gone through, they paint a much more unsettling picture. They suggest that when all that external sound just disappears, the human system basically experiences a crisis.
So silence isn't empty.
It's not empty or restful at all. It's heavy. And to be honest, it's terrifying.
And that's our mission today. We want to get past that surface level idea that quiet equals calm and really unpack what the sources say. That silence is a weight. That it can force our own bodies to kind of turn against us.
And compel the brain to invent its own reality.
Yeah.
Auditory, visual hallucinations, the works.
We're going deep into why we, as humans, seem to be so addicted to noise music, podcasts, the TV in the background, and why the quietest room on Earth can make people hallucinate in less than an hour.
It really forces you to ask, what happens when the noise finally stops? And what are we really running from when we automatically reach for our headphones?
Okay, let's unpack this. Our deep dive really has to start at the global epicenter of quiet.
The Orfield Laboratory in Minneapolis.
Yep. This place is basically ground zero for sound-based sensory deprivation.
And it is. It's just an incredible feat of engineering. To get that level of quiet, they had built what's called an anechoic chamber.
And it's not just a room, it's inside a concrete bunker, deep underground.
Right. It's engineered to be 99.99% sound absorbent. That last little fraction, that 0.01%, that's just the theoretical limit of physics. You can't get quieter.
And the inside. The architecture itself is designed to just swallow sound. The walls aren't just padded, they're lined with these huge, 3-foot-long fiberglass wedges.
They look like giant spikes.
They do, and they're angled so that any sound wave that hits them gets trapped, and it just bounces between them until it's completely absorbed. Nothing, not even a tiny whisper, bounces back.
And what's so fascinating is the immediate physical experience people report. The sources are really clear on this. The silence isn't just an absence of sound.
No.
It's described as being physically heavy, like it's pressing in on your eardrums. One analysis we read described it as a palpable force, like deep water.
Okay, so when you say deep water, is that pressure a psychological thing, or is something actually physically happening?
The researchers say it's a mix, but the sensation is very real. Your ears, your whole auditory system is built to process sound, reverberation, tiny pressure changes.
Right, echoes off the walls tell you where you are.
Exactly. And when the air pressure is completely static, when there is zero reflected sound hitting your eardrum, the brain doesn't know what to do. It almost interprets that absence as resistance. It's like it's pushing against a void.
And the effects are immediate. You look at the track record for this room, it's not just uncomfortable, it is intolerable. The longest anyone has stayed inside that chamber is 45 minutes.
Just 45 minutes?
That's less than a half of football. And it's not because they get bored, it's because it becomes biologically overwhelming.
And that tells you everything, doesn't it? The human nervous system just cannot handle a total lack of input. That 45-minute mark, it isn't about psychological fatigue. It seems to be a biological safety switch.
So when the outside world goes silent,
the body adapts instantly. It turns its focus inward in a way the sources chillingly call biological horror.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me, because the first thing that happens is you become your own noise pollution.
Yes, your own loudest source.
The ears are so deprived of external data that they crank up their sensitivity to the only signals left, which are the involuntary mechanics of just being alive.
Exactly. And the reports detail this so clearly. All the sounds we filter out and ignore every single second of our lives, they suddenly become deafening. They're amplified because there's just no background noise to mask them.
So let's run through that internal orchestra. First up, your heartbeat. It's not a subtle thump anymore. Subjects describe it as this heavy seismic thing, like a drum being amplified inside your chest, almost jarring you with every single pulse.
And then there's your lungs. You suddenly become aware of the The scraping sound of your own air sacs inflating and deflating.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one account compared it to breathing in fine sandpaper. Just this grating, mechanical sound that's a constant reminder of how much work your body's doing just to keep you going.
But the one that really got me, the most disorienting one, was the inner ear fluid.
Oh, yeah.
You can actually hear the high-pitched squelch of the fluid moving around in your semicircular canals, the very fluid that consoles your sense of balance.
And that leads directly to the core physical problem.
You
lose your balance. We rely on all those tiny external audio cues, the way sound bounces off walls, to help our brain figure out where we are in a room.
Triangulate our position?
Right. And without those cues, the system just fails. Subjects get instantly dizzy. They have to sit down. They literally cannot stand up in the silence.
So your own body prevents you from standing because it can't confirm gravity without sound. And that internal noise, that scream of your own biology, that's what comes right before the mental break.
That's it. For those who stay, that internal noise quickly snowballs into cognitive disorientation. The sources say active hallucinations start within 20 minutes for a lot of people.
And that's where that one quote comes from, right? A participant said, "It wasn't quiet, it was loud. My own body was screaming at me."
The silence just revealed this traumatic volume that was there all along.
So that biological shock, it transitions perfectly into the next phase, the visual and cognitive side of this. Once the auditory input fails completely, the brain starts making its own data.
And this brings us to a concept they call the prisoner's cinema.
Such a powerful name.
It is, and it's crucial for understanding how desperate the brain is for input. You don't just see it in anechoic chambers. You see it in any situation with prolonged sensory deprivation.
Like prisoners in solitary confinement.
Exactly. Or deep-sea divers in the dark. Or even, truck drivers staring at a black stretch of highway for 8 hours straight.
So what is actually happening in those dark, quiet spaces? We said the brain is a prediction machine. What happens when its predictions stop getting confirmed?
Well, it's like a computer that's about to crash. The brain demands sensory input to confirm the whole system is stable, that you're still alive. When that input just stops, total silence, total darkness, the brain interprets that lack of data as a catastrophic failure. Or worse, death. So it doesn't wait for reality. It starts generating its own reality to stop the system from shutting down.
So it's creating phantom signals just to check that it's still running. What form do these signals take? Are they just random static?
They start out pretty generic. Visually, people report seeing flashes of geometric patterns, weird lights, colors in the darkness. It's like an involuntary kaleidoscope.
Okay.
But as it continues, they become meaningful, personalized. Auditorily, that's when you get the phantom voices.
And that's where this stops being a cool science fact and starts getting genuinely scary. Hearing a voice where there is none.
The researchers call them ghost signals. It's the brain pinging the darkness, trying to see if there's an echo, just to check if the person is still alive and responsive.
And when the world doesn't answer,
the brain produces errors, voices, figures, sounds, all pulled from your deepest memory structures.
Which is where we get that quote from the source material that's so chilling. The person who said, "I've heard my grandmother's voice. She's been dead for 10 years.
Exactly. That's not just static. That's the brain fabricating meaning, filling the void with the most powerful data it has stored away. It would rather invent a conversation with a dead relative than accept the emptiness.
Wow. Okay, so we have the biological shock, the body screaming at you, and then the cognitive failure that leads to hallucinations. But let's pull back. Why are we so terrified of this? Why do we actively choose constant sound every single day?
And that gets us to the core psychological reason, which is something called the default mode network.
The DMN.
The DMN, yeah. It's this huge neural network that kicks in whenever your mind is supposedly at rest. When you stop focusing on a specific external task.
It's like the mind's waiting room.
It is, except this waiting room never offers you a cup of tea. It's not a relaxing place.
Right, because we hear at rest and we think relaxation, but the sources say the DMN is the complete opposite of that.
Precisely. Its main job isn't relaxation, it's intense self-referential processing. When the DMN activates, it starts to ruminate. It focuses on social comparison, it reviews past failures, embarrassing moments, and crucially, it simulates future threats.
So when I finish a task and my mind goes blank for a second, I'm not actually resting. I'm subjecting myself to this internal, supercritical performance review.
That's the daily function of the DMN. And it has evolutionary roots. It's the thing that stops us from repeating mistakes and helps us plan for danger. But in our modern, pretty low-threat world, It just becomes an engine for anxiety.
So that's when you start replaying that awkward conversation from 10 years ago.
Or you start catastrophizing about a bill that's due next month. That's the DMN running the show.
Okay, so what does this all mean for us, for the listener? The mind's default state is basically a highly critical self-evaluation.
The core idea in the sources is really powerful. It's that we are addicted to noise. That constant stream of music, a podcast, the TV humming in the background, specifically because it acts as a kind of cognitive anesthetic.
It just takes enough of our attention.
Just enough attention to suppress the DMN, to keep it from taking over.
So we are literally using external noise as a mental roadblock to protect us from ourselves. We are, as a species, terrified of being alone with our own thoughts because our thoughts, by default, are anxious and critical.
It's just less painful to focus on the plot of some mediocre TV show than it is to confront the DMN's internal critique. We're swapping deep internal work for shallow external distraction.
And this need for constant input, this fear of the self, it suggests there's something deeper going on than just avoiding bad thoughts. It's not just about pain suppression. It has to be about maybe reinforcing who we are.
And that brings us to this fascinating concept from physics that works as a perfect analogy for all this. It's called stochastic resonance.
Okay, that's a big phrase. Break that down.
So stochastic resonance is basically an acoustic principle. Imagine you're trying to hear a very, very weak radio signal. It's almost lost in the static.
Right. And you'd assume the way to hear it better is to get rid of all the static.
That's what you'd think. But the principle says the opposite. Sometimes if you add a specific low level of random noise back in, that's the stochastic part, it actually makes the weak signal clearer. It makes its edges more distinct and detectable.
Wait, so adding more noise makes the signal easier to hear? That feels completely backwards.
It's counterintuitive, but the noise provides contrast. It sharpens the outline of the real signal against the background.
So how does it apply to us and our brains?
Well, if you think of yourself, your identity, your consciousness, is that weak internal signal, then the noise of the world becomes essential. Without the noise of life, conversations, deadlines, music, traffic, that weak signal of you starts to fade into the static of your own DMN.
So we're not just grounding out the inner critic, we're actually using the background noise of the world to validate our own existence, to feel real. The world echoing back at us confirms we're actually here.
That is the implication. Noise becomes this essential input that the brain, our prediction machine, needs, not just to stop hallucinations, but to maintain the self and prevent that psychological terror of the DMN from taking over completely.
We need the static of the world to find the signal of who we are.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow. This has been an incredible deep dive. We've gone from the biological breakdown in that silent room where your own body screams at you, all the way to this complex psychological idea that noise is actually what validates our identity.
The sources really force us to reevaluate what silence even is to a human. It's not a state of peace. For our system, it's an active state of crisis, both biological and psychological.
And the most powerful line, I think, that we pulled from the material was that final quote, "The silence isn't empty, it's waiting."
And that leaves us with a final question for you, for the listener. If we rely on external noise as this essential tool, this stochastic resonance, to feel real and to keep our brain's inner critic at bay, then what percentage of the noise we seek out every day is actual information? And what percentage is just self-preservation? The next time you find yourself in a rare moment of actual silence, just pay attention. Pay attention to that automatic urge to fill it and ask yourself, what internal reality am I trying to prevent right now?
Think about that the next time you automatically reach for your headphones. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive, extracted entirely from the source material you provided. We'll talk to you next time.